Welcome to SaaS Talks from Lead to Close, where I'll be sharing with you everything that I've learned to close leads. I went from quitting my first sales job because I was too scared to talk to strangers to becoming a VP of sales for multiple tech startups where I built a sales team from scratch and led them to an acquisition. I'll teach you how to schedule more demos on your calendars, close at least 50% of your demos, and build a pipeline large enough so you're always hitting quota. If you're looking to scale, then turn the volume up. Hey everyone, so this is episode 1 of the SaaS Talks podcast. And this episode is really just meant to be a preface to the future episodes to give you some context. Why should you listen to me? Why is my advice on closing deals and building pipeline and closing more demos relevant and why, right? So I'll give you a little bit of a background and then I'll kind of fast forward. But after college, my first job that I applied to was a sales job, but it was a cold calling position. And I did really well in the interview. The founders loved me. And the first day on the job, I walked in and then the owner, the CEO, is pointing to my office and computer, and he says, "Hey, more like here are your colleagues. Meet them, introduce yourself, and here is your computer, and get to work." And he was cool. It was good vibes all around. But I looked at the computer and I felt really, really scared. I had a lot of anxiety because I realized that I had to start doing cold calls and perform. And maybe it was a fear of being judged by the people around me. Maybe it was a lack of confidence in my abilities to actually close and do cold calls. I've done sales before. To an extent, it was retail sales while I was in college. So I sat at my desk and I remember I was just going through my emails, like my personal email, just to stall and kill some time. Then I got up and I went to the bathroom and I felt like it was something straight from the movies. I just felt like, what the hell was I doing here? So I splashed my face with some cold water. And when I walked out of the bathroom, I went over to the founder's office and I said to him, "Hey, Chris, I'm so sorry, but this isn't for me." And he just looked at me like I was crazy. And if there's one thing that you take with you, no matter what, doesn't matter how much money you make or what you've accomplished, it's really your name, it's your reputation. And at that moment, I kind of stepped on my own toes and killed my name for that moment. And I left. Within 30 minutes of the new job, I left. I went home. I drove home. And I'll never forget, I got to like this mental phase call it space of just like, what am I doing with my life? I don't know what I'm doing. And it's classic, right after college, just what happens to a lot of people. And whatever I did, I made sure to avoid sales at all, like by all means necessary, right? So any job that took me, that I applied to, my first question was, "Hey, is there any sales involved?" And if they said yes, I just didn't accept it. And I eventually got into marketing, where I was a marketing manager for a company. And anytime the phone rang or I had to call somebody, even a vendor, I would just push it off to somebody else. I had some serious PTSD from that experience of quitting my first job. Like, I pretty much told my brain that, hey, you don't like sales, you're scared of sales, you don't have the ability to sell, and that's why you should avoid sales by all means necessary, even if it's not even sales, if it's just talking on the phone. And I self-sabotaged myself, and I just I avoided any conversations over the phone whatsoever. And then eventually I got into real estate. So 2-3 years of my early 20s, I avoided sales. And then eventually I wanted to get into real estate. That's what everyone does here in Miami. It's where I'm based out of. So I got into real estate, and then I joined a really awesome brokerage called Keller Williams, where they're kind of like a mission statement, or I don't even know what you call it, but they were really heavy on cold calling and door knocking. And so my dad gave me some advice. He said, you're in your 20s. What you should be doing is approaching jobs and life in somewhat of a naive way. Initially, I didn't understand what he meant by that, but now I understand. What he meant was, sometimes you need to go in without pre-existing expectations, without any advice that someone has given you. Like, usually you go for advice like, "Oh, have you heard about this company?" or "Have you worked here?" And they'll give you advice whether it's good or not good. And then you go in with a preconceived notion that based on what you were told. So he said, go in a little bit naive, go in with a blank canvas, just kind of say yes to everything. That's what I did. So I joined this brokerage and did exactly what they told me to. I drank the Kool-Aid, I did the cold calls, I did the door knocks, and to supplement my income, I got a part-time job in Allstate Insurance doing cold calling for auto insurance quotes and for life insurance quotes. And first year real estate is really, really tough. Nobody knows who you are. And I approach it the wrong way. A lot of mistakes I made, but you don't make money the first year unless you have serious connections or you've been in the business. But so the first year I was doing cold calling half the day. So from 9 to 12 p.m., 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. doing cold calling, 12 to 2 o'clock doing door knocking. And then in the afternoon from like 3:30 to 6:30, I was doing cold calling for Allstate Insurance. And after a 12-month period, I tracked my numbers. I did well over 72,000 cold calls. And the way I did that is I had an auto dialer. So the auto dialer would call 3 numbers at a time. And I was able to go through a list of leads very, very fast. But at the same time, a lot of people picked up. And that got me to a place of not closing a lot of deals because it was the first year, my first real experience with cold calling and outbound sales. But what that did give me was a level of confidence where I was able to pick up the phone, make a call to a stranger, or get an objection from somebody and know how to overcome that and feel comfortable with it. I wouldn't take anything personal. I was able to door knock. I got to a level where a salesperson should get, where they feel comfortable having sales conversations to strangers. And after real estate, I decided I want to kind of join this tech wave, and I joined a few tech startups. Both of them failed, and I joined a third one that became extremely successful. I came in as the first employee, me and the 2 founders, did all the sales for them, and eventually built out a sales team from scratch to a team of 10 inbound salespeople, and then a pod of 2 outbound sales reps, and became the VP of sales within 6 months. And then 4 years later, so about a year or 2 years ago, that company got acquired. And when I left, every single salesperson was doing well over $100,000 in income in their paychecks. And that company was doing millions of dollars, and they had a team, the entire company had a team of 50. And I built out a bunch of other departments there, customer success and all that good stuff. And then I did consulting for a year. And then after a year of consulting, I decided that I'll just kind of repeat my skill set of building out a team from scratch and a go-to-market sales operation for tech startups. And that's what I did. So in January 2020, I joined a company called Okendo, which is where I'm at right now. I'm the VP of sales. And I pretty much own all the sales for the company. So North America and then Asia Pacific, so global sales. And I'm building out a sales team. I built out a sales team now and closing all the deals that come through, teaching my team how to close deals. And so I figured, listen, there's a lot of podcasts out there. So I think this will be one of many podcasts, but I hope that the content that I give you won't be fluffy. A lot of them have a lot of intros and a lot of in-betweens and a lot of outros. This episode 1, will be the fluffiest episode. It's not really relevant to you. It's more relevant to this podcast and to provide you context as to why you should listen to me. But as far as all future episodes, I can guarantee that they'll be shorter. They'll be a few minutes, maybe even shorter than that. And that'll be purely to the point. So typical questions that people ask: how do I do this? When should I? What's the best way to? I'm having a problem with such and such. Whatever issues or experiences that account executives are dealing in a SaaS company when it comes to having a lead reach their pipeline to doing a demo to closing, that's where I'll come in. And I'm going to give you exact strategies on what to do that's worked for me, that's worked for my team, and worked for a lot of the companies that I consult for. I still consult. I do consulting on the side and advising. So this is best practices. Always take things and A/B test it. So if you hear a piece of advice from one of my episodes, take it, test it, and then if you want to put a spin on it, and then A/B test it and see if you see different results. But I can tell you right now that from all the teams that I've built at these tech companies, these sales team, and from all the salespeople that I've trained, when it comes to doing demos, they all do minimum 50% demo conversion rate. And that's on a bad month. So I'm going to teach you how to close majority of your demos. That means if you speak to 10 leads that are inbound or if they agree to a call with you, then I can guarantee you will close 5 of them. That's insane numbers. That makes your pipeline more predictable. That makes your paycheck more predictable. And I think the biggest part of sales is the pipeline and the follow-up process too. So I'll teach you all of these things. It'll all come up in the episodes. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it on daily, weekly, a month, definitely not a monthly basis, but I'm not sure how many episodes I'll do per week. But I hope you find this valuable. If you have any recommendations, you don't like what I'm saying, or you want me to cover something specific, let me know. And then again, if you like it, it's relevant, you're seeing results, subscribe to it, share it, and we'll talk soon. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you found this relevant or practical at all, then please share this episode. Until next time, I'm your host, Mor Asulin.